Good afternoon. Thank you for watching our live briefing for Thursday, May 7th. Unfortunately, this morning we learned that we have an assisted living employee who has tested positive for COVID-19. If you were watching our briefing yesterday, you'll recall that I mentioned that we are now aware of and watching for new and different symptoms than the traditional cough, shortness of breath, fever. This employee in assisted living was asymptomatic until Tuesday of this week, Tuesday, May 5th, when she experienced a loss of smell. She knew this could be a symptom and went out and got herself tested on Tuesday. This morning, she received her positive test results this morning, Thursday, May 7th. A family member in her household had previously tested positive. The employee is a night employee or an evening night employee in the Pavilion Assisted Living. As we speak to you today and over the last few hours, all the residents and their family members in the Pavilion area have been notified, as well as staff and board members have all been notified. And after this briefing, we'll be posting this out as well. The memo will go out to everyone. Upon learning of the positive test result this morning, we are requiring that all residents in the Pavilion area be on mandatory quarantine. Tracy Powell, our infection preventionist, is coordinating a plan with the clinic and nursing leadership that is testing all the residents of the Pavilion area. I believe that's happening right now, this afternoon. And all the employees who've had exposure to this employee will also be tested later today and tomorrow when they're back. We should have all those test results back within about 36 hours. We'd like to say 24, but conservatively it could be Saturday before we get the results back. We're actively tracing back all the interactions that the employee had. She is well. She really has not had any symptoms other than the loss of smell and is able to help us with that tracing. The employee, there are 19 people that live in the Pavilion, and thankfully, as a night employee, her interaction with residents was pretty minimal overnight, and so we're thankful for that. She also doesn't move around the facility. Her job is to be in Pavilion the whole time, and so she doesn't intermingle with the rest of the campus very much, and that's a good thing. The other thing we're really thankful for is that all staff, including this staff member particularly, have been wearing personal protective equipment. Sloan, I wanted to call her Lindsay. Sloan Verlander, thank you. Sloan got married last year. I can't remember her new married name. Sloan told us this morning that this staff member, because she had concerns for folks in her family, had been wearing a mask and had been really good about washing her hands and that sort of thing. So that further minimizes everyone's risk. But it does bring to the front that there is risk, and that risk will continue for a while. Our housekeeping team is disinfecting all the surfaces diligently, and today, as we speak and this morning, have done a complete, thorough disinfection of the Pavilion space. Just want to remind anyone who's sort of new to the story, we have had 2 confirmed resident cases of COVID-19 and now 5 employees. The 2 residents were independent living residents who received treatment in the hospital, returned back to Westminster Canterbury, recovered, and have both now tested negative for COVID-19. And the total of 5 employees that have tested positive. It's important for you to know that before anyone comes back to work, they need to be tested and have 2 negative tests more than 24 hours apart. So for the employee in question, the soonest she could come back would be May 20th if she tests negative. Well, actually, it'd probably be the 22nd. So she could be tested the first time again on the 20th. So more to come, and as soon as we have more information, I'll share it with you. But we'll be looking, probably Monday, we'll have all the results of everyone's testing back. Just a quick look at the COVID data for the state. You'll recall that yesterday I didn't have any data because the database didn't get updated. So what I shared with you now are increases from Tuesday's counts. The number of people tested is up to 136,558. That's an increase of over 8,600 from Tuesday. Cases are 21,570, which is up 1,314. The positivity rate, which means the percentage of those that are positive out of all of them tested, is at 15.0 today, which is heading in the right direction. It's down slightly, and the 7-day trend is downward. Deaths were at 769, up 56 from Tuesday, and there are 2,995 people in the hospital, and 2,825 have recovered. Last thing I'd say is relative to that is, as of this morning, there were 150 outbreaks in long-term care facilities. That's up 7 from Tuesday. So continues to see that it's just devastating to what's happening in nursing facilities around the state. Before I step away and invite Deborah Jacobson up, I want to revisit a subject that I brought up yesterday and caused quite a stir. Yesterday I talked about what residents and masks, and I suggested it would be a good idea for you to wear masks, or at least consider it. My intent yesterday was really just to raise your awareness of covering your face with a mask, and there's 2 reasons for it. It's probably more, but there's 2 main reasons. The first, it's our best defense from spreading this virus. We all need to assume we've been exposed. There's no way to know if someone's been exposed and is asymptomatic. And so wearing a mask is the best defense. Washing your hands, using hand sanitizer, all that is important, just as important. But we cannot get complacent. This morning's news is proof of that. We cannot relax. As soon as we do, we're going to get in trouble. So we need to be prepared to wear a mask. I have a mask and I have hand sanitizer. You should too. We all need to do that. Someday, number 2, someday, hopefully soon, but not today, we'll be able to open Westminster Canterbury back up. And when we do, you will need to wear a mask in public. So you need to get used to it. That was really my intent, is to say it's uncomfortable and it's awkward and it takes some getting used to. Most of us have gotten used to it. I think it's important you do too, because I fear this isn't going away anytime soon. And so the point of what I said yesterday is I strongly suggest that you get a mask if you don't have one, and that you wear it when you're around other residents. The messages that I got yesterday and this morning, I've heard from many, many of you. And what you want is you want the residents you're interacting with to wear masks. And many residents said they're very uncomfortable being around other residents that aren't wearing a mask. So it's really for the others that we need to wear it, because we're making people uncomfortable when we're not. So that was the reason for it, and I suggest you get one and you carry it with you, and when you're with others, especially if you have to be closer than 6 feet together, wear a mask. Outdoors, I suggest you have a mask, and I suggest you wear it when you're around others, especially staff, contractors, anybody you don't know. Use an abundance of caution. That's really the best way to go, and assume everyone else has been exposed, and assume you've been exposed. And that's the only way we can keep each other safe. Next up is Deborah. Then she's going to invite Ethan from Transportation. Then Lynn McClintock has a pastoral care update. And we're going to end today with a segment we're calling Thoughtful Thursday, featuring one of our resident clergy. So see you tomorrow.
Good afternoon. I have 2 updates for you. The first one is clearing up a question about medical appointments. Many of you have asked the question, if I go out to a medical appointment with transportation, will I have to be quarantined when I return? The answer to that is no. If you go out with our transportation, go straight to the doctor's office, come straight back to Westminster Canterbury, there will not be any type of quarantine. If you go out to a hospital for a procedure, an emergency room visit, a hospital stay, or an appointment that's within the hospital, unfortunately, we will have to ask you to be quarantined for 14 days. I hope that clears that up, and I will be glad to mention it again in the future. Second subject has to do with Publix. This was our first week of partnering with Publix, and the first day didn't go so well. Many of you called and called and called and were unable to get through, and before you knew it, the 25 orders had been taken, and that was a little upsetting to a few people. As the week has progressed, the phone calls and getting through have become a bit better, but you still are having some trouble getting through and some wait times. One thing we have heard from numerous ones of you is that the email option was much better in the past. So guess what? We're going to bring it back so that you will have the email option starting on Monday, and you can email grocery request at WC Richmond. I know that's going to make a lot of you happy. You will notice that when you place the call and you order your groceries, you get the groceries the next day. We never know how many emails are going to come through, so we do have to integrate them into the grocery orders, so it may not be the next day like the phone calls, but it will be within the week. The 6262 grocery line is open at 9 o'clock in the morning and is 5 days a week, and we accept the 25 orders. This week, again, everybody tried to call Monday, but for those of you who called later in the week, you found that it was easier. We suggest maybe you call back on the day that you selected this week, whether it was Tuesday or Wednesday, and the turnaround time should be the next day. We hope that the email request line will also open the lines up a bit easier for you to get through. So we hope that this little change will make a big difference to everyone. Another note about Publix, and this has been one that's happened just today. When you get your receipt, you will notice there's a T in front of every one of the items, the cost of the items. Like if it's 30 cents, it'll be T30. Many residents thought that T was a 1. So a grocery total of $30 looked like it was $130. Many residents called resident services today, and I'm glad to tell you that the T just stands for the training mode, which is a system on the cash register that just lets us know that we need 2 receipts. So again, it's not 130, it's T30. So I hope that helps you. And we are very pleased that Publix has been partnering with us, and so far everything has gone really well, and we've gotten lots of compliments. So again, thank you for your patience, and let's give this a try. And if we need to make further adjustments, we certainly will do that. With that said, I'm going to call Ethan Wilburn up to the podium. He is our transportation supervisor, and he's going to give you the behind-the-scenes story about transportation. So I'll turn it over to you, Ethan.
All right. Thank you very much, Deborah, for that introduction. Like Deborah said, I'm Ethan Wilburn, and I'm your new transportation supervisor. I have spoken to many of you over the phone and have gotten the pleasure of speaking to several of you in person in the little over 2 months that I've been here. I'm honored to have been asked to speak to you today. My experience here so far has been quite fulfilling and rewarding, despite the current situation we're in. I can truly tell that most of you are very appreciative for how much the staff is going out of their way to help keep you all safe and satisfied. Times are very tough, but I am thankful every day to be here and to be a part of this community. Things are constantly changing around here, and it's for the better. We greatly appreciate everyone's cooperation, patience, and understanding, and we know it's not easy, but you all are doing an amazing job going along with it. One of the changes that took place for a little while was that a few staff, including myself, were going to the post office every day and getting the mail, bringing it back here, and having several staff volunteers sort and deliver it to all the residents. It was very time-consuming, but we made it work. Thank you to everyone who was involved in that process. We are fortunate that it is now back on campus and in the hands of our regular postal carrier. I am normally here from 9 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. Monday through Friday. I can be reached at extension 6263 to answer your transportation questions and needs. I realize that we are operating a little differently right now, but we are still trying to stick to some of the procedures that have been in place for some time. I want to start off talking about requesting transportation to medical appointments. I encourage residents to still fill out this blue transportation request form completely and turn it in at either the CCL or tower desks. They can be found at both desks and in various places around the community. If you live in the Glebe or Homes on the Green, we can deliver them to you through the internal mail that goes out every day, and you can return it by putting it out for it to be picked up. You will get a confirmation sent to your in-house mailbox. If possible, please give at least a 48-hour notice for appointments. We are also providing transportation to banks and financial institutions. For your safety, we do not exit the vehicle during these trips. Everything can be done at a drive-through or through the vehicle window. If you are not sure if your bank provides drive-through service, please contact your bank prior to scheduling a trip with transportation. Regular fees still apply for every medical and personal trip. If you have a mask, please bring it with you when taking transportation. If you do not have one, we will provide one. Our drivers make sure their vehicles are sanitized between appointments. The grocery shuttle at the Azalea Mall lot has been a success. Our current process includes setting up 3 tables at the lot, 1 for drop-offs and 2 for pickups. We have 2 buses that run every 15 minutes. There is a lot attendant, one of our staff members, who helps drivers load all the items onto the buses. We also have another driver who helps deliver items to the Glebe and Homes on the Green. From the Azalea lot, the drivers stop at both the CCL and tower entrances, where staff volunteers await for the items to be unloaded and delivered to the residents. The staff volunteers help us out immensely, and we are grateful for them. We ask that items being dropped off to be limited to groceries and small items. If possible, large or heavy items make it more difficult on our staff. For items being returned to Azalea for pickup, they can be brought down to either the CCL or tower desks before noon on Monday, Wednesday, or Friday. And please include the day that they are being picked up, and also clearly label who they're from you, and who they're going to. As mentioned before, we have 2 separate tables at Azalea for pickup items. Sherry Grady and Deborah Jacobson have already touched on this a little bit, but I just want to reiterate. Since the City of Richmond is currently in the process of milling and repaving Westbrook Avenue, that means there will be temporary road closures along Westbrook in different areas of the road. For anyone dropping off or picking up at Azalea, it is most convenient for them to enter and exit the lot from Brook Road. There is an entrance right next to the abandoned bank on the south direction of Brook Road. Please pass this along to whoever is making their way to that area. We apologize for any inconvenience right now, but it will be exciting to see a newly paved Westbrook in the long run. I want to talk briefly about the grocery shopping change to Publix. This new system has now allowed for us to keep the 5 to 6 staff volunteers who are going into Walmart every weekday risking their safety to now be used elsewhere around the community in other vital roles. It has also freed up drivers to handle the increase of medical and bank trips. Safety is always our number one priority, and it is especially important during this time. I now want to take the time to personally thank several people who have made my job a little more manageable. I want to start off by thanking each transportation driver who has helped and continues to help the residents get where they need to go and get them the items they need. This includes, thank you very much for George Engel, Harold Dickerson, Brad Morrison, Betsy Murphy, John Sanford, Tony Talbot, Mary Wiltshire, and Deborah Winston. I am fortunate to have such a great team. Next, I want to thank the people who have been heavily involved in the grocery request process and making sure the residents get what they want for the most part. Jessica Corbett and Zach Townsend from the theater, and my boss and courtesy services manager, Jessica Goldberg, have been instrumental in this process. We have come together to think of how to improve this process and to make it most effective, and we are still working on fine-tuning it. I also want to thank everyone at the CCL and Tower desks for assisting me in bringing residents' concerns to my attention. Those people include Deborah Stewart, Dawn Taylor, Helen Armstrong, Jessica Hamway, Joyce Cruz, Brenda Stone, David Ballas, and Constance Hawkins. I also want to thank everyone in resident services who has worked with me to take care of residents' needs. This includes Emily Krause, Emily Williamson, Sarah Everett, and of course, Deborah Jacobson. Lastly, I want to thank everyone who helped shop for groceries and everyone who continues to deliver groceries. You all play a huge role, too. Thank you to anyone else who I have worked with and who has helped the transportation department in some way. I look forward to meeting many of the residents once this lockdown is lifted. Thank you for your patience and understanding, and please hang in there and be safe. Thank you. And I'd like to pass it along to Lynn now.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Lynn McClintock, Director of Pastoral Care. I have one brief announcement today. You all have been enjoying evening prayer every evening at 6:30 p.m. Tonight is the last night. It will be at 6:30. Tomorrow, May 8th, Friday, it will be at 6:15. So we're moving it up 15 minutes earlier in the evening. You can get grounded before you watch the evening news. So we hope that you'll join us for evening prayer at 6:15. John mentioned earlier Thoughtful Thursdays. Here at the afternoon briefing, we'll be having our resident clergy sharing some wonderful thoughts with you. Today, we have Reverend Rainey Dankel, who is the Interim Associate Rector at St. Paul's Episcopal Church. So we welcome Rainey.
Thank you, Lynn. Good afternoon. This is a reading from Psalm 63. God, you are my God. Eagerly I seek you. My soul thirsts for you. My flesh faints for you, as in a barren and dry land where there is no water. For you have been my helper, and under the shadow of your wings I will rejoice. My soul clings to you. Your right hand holds me fast. The book of Psalms is the original Hebrew prayer book, and it's part of the Christian scriptures. During these challenging times, I'm finding the Psalms to be particularly comforting. When the psalmist rails against enemies, I think of the virus that is causing so much destruction and pain. When the psalmist cries that God seems to have deserted us, I voice a similar lament. When the psalmist praises the beauty of God's creation, I look out my window at the gardens at Westminster Canterbury. The Psalms are poetry. As I read them, I like to look for an image or phrase that especially speaks to me. The image in Psalm 63 that I'm focusing on today is in verse 8. My soul clings to God, and God's right hand holds me fast. One of the particularly difficult aspects of this pandemic is that we are physically separated from each other. We can't hug our loved ones or shake hands with acquaintances. And most tragically, often we can't offer a comforting touch to those who are ill or dying. And so I'm especially drawn to this verse to see God's hands extended to us, God's right hand holding on to us. When I feel alone and afraid, when I pray for those who are suffering, when I search for strength for our leaders and safety for all who are working to keep us healthy and nourished, I hold up this image in my mind's eye. The maker and sustainer of all life is reaching hands towards us. In the book of the prophet Isaiah, God speaks to people in exile and says, "See, I have inscribed you on the palms of my hands." The hands reaching to you today, God's hands, have your name inscribed on them. God has not forgotten you. God will never let you go. Let us pray. O God, whose fatherly and motherly care reaches to the uttermost parts of the earth, we humbly pray you graciously to behold and bless those whom we love, now absent from us. Defend them from all dangers of soul and body, and grant that both they and we, drawing nearer to you, may be bound together by your love in the communion of your Spirit and in the fellowship of all your children. Hear our prayer, O Lord. Amen. Please join us tomorrow for our next update at 3 o'clock. May you be blessed this day.